to another episode of the Mere Mortals Meanderings, live here Sunday, 4th of January 2026, 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time as usual. Would love for you to come join us live if you are ever in the area.
In the digital space for it.
You've got your phone available, and you can do that via YouTube or any of the podcasting apps where we're also live there. And today is an episode where myself, Kyron,
and Juan over here,
we get together and we talk about a topic that's just on our minds, something that might have been playing up, but it's pretty loose format. So unstructured thoughts, although I do have one or two little notes just to keep me on track. And for this week, I wanted to talk about, I think I titled this something like AI Killed the Podcaster.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten the subtitle of that, but it was essentially talking about why I've noticed myself listening to less podcasts and moving into other mediums, or in particular, more written stuff, which I was unexpected, particularly digitally written things. So I just wanted to go over a couple of changes I'm noticing in the media landscape, why I'm doing that, and we'll talk, I guess, about like media and information sources, how we're consuming things, where AI might be changing things as well, and how it's going forward. So I suppose I'll ask off with a question for you. What would be your percentages in terms of how you consume information nowadays and from the different mediums that are available? So let's say books, online reading, video, and audio, I guess. And podcasting.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't. It's weird for me. I wouldn't differentiate video and audio podcast because all I watch.
Because you can do things like you have YouTube. It's a video, but you put it over there, so you're not really watching it. So
yeah, well, but even then, it's like I don't watch any videos that are not podcasts. Like I don't.
Really?
There's maybe one or two a month that I might watch that are not a podcast.
Nah, you watch more. Like F1 and stuff like that.
Yeah, but like say that. No, good point. I guess in the month of December, as an example, I watched one F1 thing, and it was a podcast.
Okay,
it was a Formula One podcast. So I did watch it in video format, but it was a podcast.
No, that's not true. I saw you watching something. I was here when you were putting on the Abu Dhabi race or something.
Yeah, but that wasn't in December. That's why I was like, that's what I'm saying. Like, no, it would have been November. Because that's when the Formula One finished. So I'm like, I get what you're saying. So I'd probably say in like video format, man, probably like 5%, or maybe lower. It was just like a video. Podcast in whichever format, audio, video, kind of related. Either I'm like listening to it. I'd say 40%, maybe bigger, 50%. Reading would probably make up the other 40%, and then another 5% of, for the moment. Ooh, yeah, I'd say.
You're so full of shit. 7th December was the Abu Dhabi.
The race?
And 1st of December was Qatar. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. There you go. So it wasn't December. So yeah, I'd say 5% of video watching. 40%. Yeah, I'd say 40% podcasts. 40% would be reading. No, that's untrue. I'd say 50% podcasts, 20% reading. So like 35, and then the other 25% split it between Substack reading. So just reading digital things, and then another whatever the other split 12.5% probably on some like news article, media article type of content. I'd say that'd probably be the split.
Okay, if you'd asked me this a month or two ago, especially when I was stretching more, and this probably gets into your habits and routines as well. And perhaps even your interests, because certain things are better consumed in via other formats as well. But for me, it probably would have been like 60, even more, 70, 80% video. And that would be podcast-esque type things, but with video attached to it as well. As in, I'm talking like kind of two talking heads, or it's an interview. And I would sometimes watch the video, sometimes not. That would also include just like general entertainment. So that's just the YouTube rabbit holes I go down, or entertainment of like, it's speed running, or it's fucking someone playing games, or it's what what did I get into recently? What was I watching the other night? Anyway, random stuff. Probably the pure audio podcasting was stuff that I'd just listen to in the car. So the driving that I do every week. So, it's a 20-minute drive here. So that's 40 minutes that I do back and from. Those would be like my standard podcasts, podcasting 2.0, and some of the art stuff that I have been consuming recently. Some of it quite interesting, actually. Found some good ones. And then reading. The audio only would maybe be like 10%, maybe readings, maybe 15%, and then 10% of audio. And I would have said like reading stuff digitally. Yes, I would kind of scroll through Twitter a little bit, but I don't even know if I'd call that.
I guess you'd say that was like browsing, not really reading.
Yeah. Maybe I should ask the question as in like thoughtful consumption of media. There was certainly my thoughtful consumption was the video and audio and reading of books. The unthoughtful, like the just more scrolling type, getting barraged with stuff was more what I would call like Discord and Twitter, which is more very short snippets, people and bots, I guess, expressing views, and you just get kind of hit with things. Yeah. And
so what triggered change? What triggered you going like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna read more digitally.
Look, part of it was and we're just talking about the kind of like symptoms, I guess, here, or the sorry, not the symptoms, the outcomes. And I want to go to the symptoms perhaps after the Boostagram Lounge. But changes in my behavior certainly was, I mentioned this in the previous episode or the monthly goals, I've stopped stretching in the morning. So a lot of the video YouTube type things I was listening to / watching, do a bit of both. That has just completely dried up because it's like, okay, I don't have this thing that I'm doing where I've got enough mental energy and concentration to do it. Because the stretching was, I would cry a little bit, but not too much. So a lot of time I'm just sitting in a hold and just like pressing my legs down or whatever. So that's been taken away and I haven't filled it with anything else. And because I'm spending more time looking at really niche stuff, i.e. X402 and the kind of intersection, I guess you'd call it, of AI and crypto, the information media is not available, I would say, as video, and certainly not high quality ones. The closest stuff I could find would be, hey, we're doing a hackathon, here's like rough presentations. And so it would be people signing up to a call being like, oh, is Jason on the line? And Jason be like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then someone else would just interrupt over it. It's shitty audio quality. Their thoughts are unstructured and it's just wild ideas. And it's like, man, this is fucking bull. Like, I'm wasting.
Sounds like wasted time.
I'm sure you could find a gem in here. You know, if you listen to enough of them, I'm sure you would find a founder or someone who is going to create a unicorn, $1 billion company from what they're doing. But you'd have to listen to a lot of them. And you'd also have to listen to a lot of just like technical stuff, which I'm not interested in. The podcasting, that's probably like podcasting 2.0, that's technical. It's about formats. Actually, would I even say that? No, at this stage, probably not. It's already moved beyond a lot of the technical things and it's more just the structure of stuff. How could we structure these things so that people would maybe use this, or people are asking for a way to filter out AI podcasts. How could we structure something so that this could be useful for everyone in an open source way? Things like this. So that's probably one of the bigger ones. Also, my shift from reading books that I'm naturally drawn to other ones which are more esoteric, or not esoteric, not my normal reading. Dating advice for women. The more spiritual manifesty type things, some of those have been requiring me to read stuff and then drop it really quickly as well. So I think I don't know how I'd say it, like that format has also influenced my reading style, as in like I'm being a bit more critical whilst reading in a way of like, okay, is this idea really good or bad? Whereas a lot of the books I'd read would be John Steinbeck is just like you lose yourself in the story. That's the whole point. You're not trying to analyze like, what
you're being like partly entertained or in some other way.
Is this
like,
a good idea? Is this something
you're
that
just
could be
absorbing.
useful to me? It's just like, yeah. So I think that probably the best way of describing it, I'm trying to move more away from absorbing to actually being more critical of the information that's coming in. And that's resulted in me reading more things critically, both as books and then also finding stuff online where the information is, I can more critically view it, aka this intersection of AI and crypto. And it seems people are writing more than they are producing podcasts. For
example. No, good point. I guess because one of the things I didn't probably enter in the percentages earlier was a big percentage, let's just say whatever, 15% is in social media, and it kind of like unconscious use of social media, whether it's X or Instagram or whatever, just scrolling through and seeing what's happening. And in coinciding with the using it more consciously, the bucket of time that I would be using it unconsciously, I wanted to split that out into digital reading. And that's what led me down the path of Substack, because at least for the stuff that I care about I'm finding Substack has a lot of written items that are in particular to the things that I care about. So slightly different in that, it is AI related, but I'm liking, say, Limitless's posts or A16 Sets posts about AI and the predictions and looking into, this is why we think this is happening because of all these examples, et cetera. That I find the more precise written information and gathering of the information is better than me going and trying to find a podcast or video that's talking about the equivalent thing. Because as you say, it's either more it's not informational nor educational. Well, it is partly educational, less so informational, but it's more just entertainment purposes, where I kind of just don't care for that. Or it's so in the moment, kind of like how Tom Bilyeu has changed his podcast to be like on demand. This is what's happening right now on the news type of vibe, where I'm like, I don't want that either. I want it to be holistic enough, informed enough, well thought out enough that what the value of books bring is that, you might read a book and it takes you 12 hours to read, but to bring that information together took a ridiculous amount of hours, and it was synthesized down from all these various things. I find that in, I guess, digital reading has some of that format where, you don't, a well-constructed podcast, okay, it does bring a lot of great information. I've listened to plenty of them even recently. But when it comes to topics like AI or crypto or something else, I often find, like you say, it's at the moment better found in the written content with the detail and the practical reasonings and the rationalization and the back and forth than in any real video that I've seen.
What has drawn you more to reading the fantasy, aka Lord of the Rings and all the Alex Rider stuff?
I think it was just I've read a lot of nonfiction for a long time.
Yeah, because you were reading, not Tom Bilyeu's, but Tony Robbins' Life Force. You were reading.
I was reading like all the Ryan Holiday books.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have intermingled in there stuff from other people as well while I've been reading fiction. But I think it was early on the year. I just kind of went, I want to read more fiction. I just haven't for a while, and that began down the path of Alex Rider, and then into Lord of the Rings. I've got other great fiction series as well in my library to read, like the Game of Thrones series. So there's others that I'm sure I will get to eventually. But I have been, as I'm finishing up this Lord of the Rings trilogy now, I'm really itching to get back into just the general type of books I was reading in the past.
We seem, you know how women can like sync their periods? I think we're syncing our reading, but it's the opposite way, because I just went through a period of, no more, what would I call it? I was reading a lot of fiction, but it was like fiction perhaps with a meaning or story behind it. I've read more non-fiction this this probably around the same time you started doing that, and it's been more is like informational, but on how would I describe it? Topics that I typically am not interested in per se. It's like kind of forcing myself to get outside of the normal comfort zone a bit. And now I've got Beside by Bed, the Sovereign Individual, Read, Write, Own by Chris Dixon, and I think there was another one I got recently, which are ones like I really want to read. Like those are the ones that they're more like information, technology, philosophy type ones.
Yep.
So I'm going like, oh, okay, this is probably getting close to the end of my like dating book series, or
Gotcha.
More how would I call it? Thoughts and psychology. Yeah, thoughts and psychology, more and back into like philosophy, technology, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, I'm very much about to begin the like.
Yeah, we're gonna switch over.
I'm moving away from fiction into not. I wouldn't say self-help, but I got gifted a book that I'm sure I'll like just smash down because it's about habits and goals and stuff like that. So I'm sure I'll read that, and then I've got just a truckload of other books that I've just been waiting. I want to read, but I've just been going through this fiction phase for the moment, and then I'm sure that'll like swap over into more of that. So that does occur. So have you found that you've changed over your behaviors now? Like you're now doing a lot of the digital reading. How have you found the right means of absorbing your digital reading? Like how are you finding it? Because right now for me, there's only two right now, and I haven't explored it further. One is I forget his name, but Alex from the Moonshots podcast. He puts out a daily article on X, and it is very AI like summarized, but he's bringing back a lot of things, and it's very particular about AI and all of its various facets that things are happening. And then it's a 3-minute read that gives me a really broad view on the landscape of what's happening on a day-to-day basis. Love it. I could not recommend it more. The other one is Substack. Only recently got into it, and just finding a few key people that I'm like, okay, this seems like an interesting article. Of course, I'm very, as opposed to podcasts where I might give it a few goes if like there's too many ads or something else. I've been really intentional with I'll read for a minute, and if I'm like, this crap, boom, gone. Like I'm not reading it again.
Oh man!
But I've got a lot of things I followed and signed up for Substack that I'll read, and I'll just pick from the top ones or the interesting ones. And again, these are generally 3 to 10 minute reads, and they're all in relation to this is interesting. They're in relation to AI, they're in relation to aesthetics, they're in relation to power, leadership, business, and I think there was artistic mathematics was another one in there as well. So those are the categories which I've selected to get information on. So I'm very new. I put this out there. I'm very, very new into the digital reading medium. That's a very particular thing that I haven't gotten into. What I haven't gotten into though is taking a video. Let's just say if there was a really interesting AI or some other topic video, and taking the 4-hour video and just uploading it to AI to give me the summarization of it. I find like I'm missing something if I do that. I don't know why. I don't know if that's my own bias or it's reality, because maybe you could say the same thing about a digital read, but for whatever reason, I'm not doing that. I still prefer to listen or watch if it is through that video audio format.
It's the same reason that going the opposite way is not helpful. Getting a Buddhist text and then having that, Buddhist audio and then putting it into text as a book, you go, this is weird. Like there's something missing. There's something wrong here. And it's because the medium makes it. There's a particularness to the way that you absorb it. If you're getting AI to just summarize a video or summarize audio, I think something is being missed, and what that something is kind of a little bit intangible. The way people will emphasize a certain word or not emphasize a certain word,
timing, cadence, various things that you can't actually communicate through a written form.
And that's why I would say I've been enjoying these digital. So typically, it's either been a Twitter article, which is someone who's verified can write it like a long form type thing. So it's basically a blog post, essentially what Twitter once kind of was, but without the character limit that they used to have. or I'm getting email, I guess a Substack type thing, but it'll be in the email. So I guess I've never done Tim Ferriss's blog. What is it, five Bullet Friday or whatever it is. I've never had that, but it's equivalent type things to that. But the main reason I'm getting into all these things is because I have structured my digital footprint into certain categories now. AKA I've got a Discord, which is purely for like art, and also a Twitter account that's purely for art, an email that's purely for art, and they're all kind of locked into the same place. So all I get is digital art on there. And then that, I think, has just made me realize, okay, there's this is where the more interesting things are being talked about in this area, aka Cosimo de Medici, one of the biggest digital art collectors. He releases an email once a week like that. So it's like, okay, this is where I'll get the information from him. Similar with the AI, I know I've got the Mere Morpheus account, I've got the Discord, which is all AI related as well, and email, which is all related AI. Fucking wallets, which are my wallet, AI only wallets. I think just separating all of that has just made me go, okay, this is where people are talking about the things that I'm interested in. It's not on the podcasts. It's like,
yeah, that's it. I don't know.
Searching
It's
X402 on YouTube is not going to generate good results.
It's interesting. Yeah, I guess it's interesting the way that you were just describing and the way that you break it down into their own silos so that you can be very particular with it. Like I can see very much how it could be really useful for people, and it sounds like it's useful for you. And then when I take that same and try to apply for me, I'd be like, man, I hate that. I would hate that. Like I love, one of the reasons I still haven't fully transitioned out of Spotify to use YouTube is that in Spotify, I love the fact that everything is just in just one view. Like I can see every single podcast, just like timeline, like, oh, here you go, I can just go next. Yeah. Whereas in YouTube, it's a little bit more difficult. I've got to go to the where I've subscribed, or I've got to be searching for it, where it's just served in one view. I like the Substack way where it's got every single category I've put just linearly down. So I love being able to go, oh, cool, art, then AI, then aesthetics, then business, then power, and then it just goes back and forth and flips around. I love that all in one location. I'm not messing. Same with the emails. Like I get all of the various subscribe things just in one email, and it's maybe a Hormozy, then like Alex Hormozy, Layla Hormozy, something about art. I've got Tim Ferriss's, I've got Chris Williamson's, I've got the CEO one from Stephen. So like there's all of these all in the one place, and I'll just go through them whenever I do have the opportunity.
So it sounds like you go from when you have that, do you typically find one, jump into it immediately, read it or listen to it straight away, and then jump back out and find something? Because what I will do is I will typically have like a discovery mode where I'm going through and going like, oh, here's an article, new tab. Here's something else, new tab. I'll end up with like 10 tabs, and I'll do that for half an hour, and then I will read. That's a good point.
Maybe it's a behavior, because I was saying this to Karen. I don't even use tabs anymore, like, because I don't use my laptop in that format at all. So I guess the way I'm consuming things is not on the computer. It's all phone. So it's purely like, I guess maybe how I operate on the phone.
Okay,
how you would on the computer.
Which is then kind of dictates, I guess, you jump into, you'll find something and you'll consume it immediately. Whereas I'm more, here's a bunch of things that I want to get to. Then they're all sitting there, and then I'll make my way through them. Correct, not even necessarily that day. It could be days later. And
I think this is and there's differentiation. And again, if a mere mortal is listening, I guess this is the way the current operates. I think I've seen you do this where you'll save something to be able to watch it, and it might be a 2-month-old video, but I want to go back to watch that. Whereas for me, if I don't get to it very much in the immediacy, I'll just never. It's gone. It's gone. Like I won't check it again, type of deal. And it might have been something interesting that I did want to check, but I just go, I've obviously prioritized other things that I wanted to listen to. Cool. And it can be very much just the trend of the week, of the day that I want to be checking in. So like I usually go through a phase where I go, I'll catch up on all of the Chris Williamson things up to date of the ones that I care about, and then I might do Stephen, or I might do a string of Alex Hormozy things. It just depends on the particular phase that I'm doing of what I want to focus on, whether it's business or whatever.
Yeah, I typically will add a lot of things to save to watch later, or it's a new tab, or I'm downloaded this, I'll get to it. I don't always get to all of them though, because some of them will just be like, all right, this is kind of like out of date now. And to be honest, that's a good thing, because there's a whole bunch of things to watch later, which now that they're 2 months old,
you didn't have to actually go and listen.
Yeah, I didn't need to. So it's like, oh, all right, well, this was obviously just a really short-term thing, which probably would have added no benefit. The Brian Armstrong, Rick Rubin one I talked about in the last episode, that has got more of the timeless feel to it.
Yeah, yep.
And I didn't see it straight away. I think it's probably already a couple of weeks old. That one was a great thing to listen to.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely those ones that you got to judge for.
That's probably one in every 10 though.
There was one.
I'd like to try and get that to 2 in every 10.
There was a fantastic episode that I listened to late, I guess, when from its release date, and it was Lex Fridman. I don't know if you listened to any of the Lex Fridman podcasts.
I haven't listened to it for a long time.
Yeah. But Lex had a conversation with, and I'll call it out, David Kirtley around nuclear fusion and plasma physics. This is on the 18th of November, and I only recently I listened to it maybe 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. It's a fairly lengthy one, and it was such an awesome listen. Again, it's a conversation, but it felt like it was so informational about fusion and fission and blah blah blah, all these sort of things that made me be like, wow, this is the sort of thing I really wanted to make sure I didn't skip, even if it was 6 months later. And I guess my behavior for consumption is I will go back through occasionally for my really key media sources, and we'll just consume everything until up to date, and skipping by the things that I just know I'm not as interested in this particular thing. So that, I guess, I've moved when I think I'm moving towards that path on digital articles of where I might not read a particular author for a while, and I'll go back and go, cool, they've released 7 articles. Okay, looks like I'll read 4 of these and I'll keep me up to date, and that's a really important one.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. The other one, which has been unexpected for me, is Twitter Spaces. I've actually been listening to a lot of them, and it's hard because it's a really shit format. So many times it'll stop working, or people's mics are not great, and you're like going in and out. There'll be gaps. The Twitter will reload for some reason, and then it's just like lost where you're at. So I've started to download some of them for the mere Morpheus. I download it and then I'll upload it into a podcast format so I can actually listen to it, because I don't want to do it on Twitter. But that barrier kind of adds a little bit of, there's a little secret sauce in there as well. When things are hard, there's sometimes a goodness in them being hard. But
yeah, okay.
I
will agree.
That soon.
X spaces are shit. And whenever I see the little blue or purple line at the top, I'm like, fuck this. Who the fuck is using this shit? So there is someone who's using them. There you go.
Well,
I remember using them when VFriends was using them, and I hated it even then. I was like, man, this is terrible.
I'm certainly not listening to any of them live.
Oh, okay. Right.
All after the fact.
Okay.
Yeah, no, definitely not live.
Not live.
Definitely not live. Look, we'll do the Boostagram Lounge, then we'll jump into, I guess, my observations of, a lot of this was our behavior as well as slightly changing, and perhaps we're leaning more into things that are better optimized for us. But I think also a bunch of it's on the supply side of, I think things are changing in the media world. They do. Mm-hmm. And we're starting to notice some of that, and some of our behaviors changing because of that, if you get my gist. So I think it's probably 50-50, the reasons for that. But yeah, for those who are wondering, Boostagram Lounge is where we thank any supporters of the show who donate or send in some sats, so Satoshis, using the Lightning Network. And they do that on a podcasting app, a modern podcasting app, one like Fountain, TrueFans, Podcast Guru, Customatic. Podverse is in the alpha stage. I just listened to a convo that they had recently on Podcasting 2.0. And you can do any of that. meremortalspodcast.com/support will explain how to do that. I don't think we had any.
We didn't have any. I checked on the Fountain as well. There wasn't any there.
The beanie stays off.
The Chucks
stays off. The Chucksless beanie. Everyone loves it. Gets rave reviews.
Yep.
Staying off. All right. Why things are changing. Do you have any thoughts, Juan, on the media landscape over the last let's just say, a couple of years since AI has been introduced, how do you think media has changed as a whole? And this could be anything. Could be
I just wanted recently, I don't know if the stat is completely true, but I'll give the range that I was saying. Between 20 to 30% of all new AI content going up, of all new YouTube content going up, is AI generated, full AI generated, not just, hey, it's ours with a little bit of AI. No, it's complete and utter AI. So that's a quarter, let's just say, of every new video going up is AI generated. So straight away, that's a huge change, obviously, in what was before to what it is now. There was another stat saying that there's more. We've hit the point where there's more than 50% of written content coming out that is AI generated than it's human generated. So again, don't worry, not stacking it up with everything that's been written in the past, but we're now at a stage where it sounds like there's more text coming that's AI than it is just human. So as we move forward, I can only assume that trend will continue to a point where it's, okay, well, most of the things you're consuming are going to be in some way, shape or form, AI enhanced or created.
Not necessarily, I mean, like, just because it's being made doesn't mean it's being listened to or watched. So that's one kind of little caveat, but definitely enhanced. I think a lot of things are starting to feel the effect of, okay, there's an enhancement, or, you know, maybe it's very subtle. Maybe someone who, Veritasium, if you know that YouTube channel where they go into like scientific stuff and explain it, perhaps their script writing has a bit more AI in it, and it's not necessarily the video itself, and not necessarily the images, but the way that it's presented, or the way that they were like, oh yeah, we'll do a storyboard like this. Perhaps that I assume it's already had some touching of it in its recent videos, for example. But yeah, it's funny because if you say this, and then I would almost guarantee everyone would go like, well, I'm not listening to any of that 20 to 30%. I feel that way. I'm not going like, oh, I'm not listening or watching any purely AI stuff. I'd be able to tell. And you can definitely tell with a lot of it. A lot of it is what they call like AI slop. It's just really half-assed, is really not great. I think it's more in the, as you mentioned, enhancements, where it's someone you already listen to and they're doing like a little tweaking behind the scenes. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I'm kind of ambivalent about that. I think it'll be both, but it will create some changes. Is what I'm thinking. And
I guess it just, again, it is generational things as well. So like I can again and only imagine that people who are a few generations older than us, their way of consumption of content probably doesn't change too much. For us, maybe it does a little bit. There might be some percentage of us that go, okay, we want to absorb things that are still human made, and that you know, we really resonate with that, and you can tell the difference between maybe a human enhanced to just pure AI slop type of level. Cool. Okay, I get that. I just don't know about the younger generation, because they still live, as I understand, still on a very much a streaming, alive type of environment.
Which is almost non-AI. You know, maybe that's why.
Well, no, because there's a lot of streaming now. There's a lot of AI live streaming now as well. So they're using AI bots and AI simulations in a live format as well, and they will watch that as well. There was not a study, like they asked a few young people, you know, would you watch this if it was pure AI, and this was in relation to live streaming, Twitch type of stuff, and they were like, yes, we wouldn't care, as long as it's entertainment, right? So I could see if it will, but if it improves to a point where it's undiscernible from a human doing it, at least in a digital format, I could very well see it just becoming the norm, and that would be the consumption as opposed to anything else. We might not change our views on that, but if that just becomes the general trend and the usage of a younger generation, it almost feels like there's not much we can do to influence that, and that just becomes the new move towards that path.
And I've got a classic example here of how it's beneficial and not beneficial, and in real money terms. My brother Prentice, I would classify him, he's almost out of the younger generation. He's 27, so it's like, all right, he's getting a bit old. He's getting a bit his knees are going. He's certainly adopts it more, when it's talking about like, hey, talking into ChatGPT and saying like a really long 5-10 minute thing, he's much more likely to do that. I'm not sure I've seen him do 5-10 minutes, but I've definitely like minute long talking.
I do it daily. Daily.
So I don't really do that.
I do it daily and maybe a half-hour audio, maybe once a fortnight.
Okay.
Roughly.
Yep. He's been using that for many different things, and some of it's very helpful. He can now change the oil in his car. He like changed headlights and stuff purely through direction of AI with a little bit of video assistance as well. And that saved him hundreds of dollars. Our dog was sick. Butters has been sick this last couple of weeks. He's had some diarrhea stuff. We came home from the going out to see our dad, and Butters had managed to puke up in one room, go to like the toilet in another room, and then a combination of the two in another room.
Nice.
Like he'd done a real good job. Obviously, he's very unwell if he's puking up and stuff. Now, Prentice was talking to AI, and then this was on New Year's Day, and he was like, "Oh, what should I do? Like, we've been trying to change the diet." It was saying, like, you need to take him to the vet straight away. Now, this was New Year's Day, and it would be after hours. If he hadn't been using AI, and certainly if it would been, he'd asked any of my input, I'd have been like, just wait for the next day. Like, it's not life threatening. Yes, he's sick, but like he doesn't need to go right now. And I didn't really have a good thought why, but that's just my general thing. Like, it's just better to do it the next day. He went, vet essentially said, nothing really happening. Like, you're doing all the right things. That'll be $800, please. And it's like, oh, fuck. So all of the benefits that he's got from, saving money on going to the mechanics and doing stuff has now just been wiped out because he implicitly just trusted AI of like, you need to go to the vet right now, without thinking like, oh, do I really need to go right now? And AI, do you know how much this is going to cost me? Because it's a New Year's Day and after hours, public holiday and after hours.
It's an interesting concept.
It didn't bring that up at all.
It's an interesting concept though, because, let's just say that the probability to bad outcome, let's just say there was a 90% chance that had you waited till the next day, all will be fine, and you didn't have to spend the $800. But the 10% chance that if you had waited one more night and you didn't take them to the vet, and they go, oh, he swallowed whatever, a bad mushroom or something else that made him like really, really sick. He didn't make it to the next day.
Yeah.
Then does that it's kind of like that profile of, okay, yes, there was a very heavy percentage that it would be fine, but there was a slight percentage where it would be really, really drastically terrible. So it's worth the take anyways. So, could the AI, or I don't think it did exactly that, but if it was the calculation it was giving, the advice it might have been giving, going, yes, you don't want the outweighted, bad consequence if it is in this lower percentage probability.
Yeah. If it was 10%, if that was the actual odds, that was the right thing to do. There's no way it was 10%.
Okay.
Think about humans. Like, if you've got a human, they've been sick for a week, they throw up one night and go have diarrhea that night, is it a 10% chance they're going to fucking like die because they don't go to the hospital that night, knowing that they've already been sick the kind of prior, like he'd puked up a couple of days before that.
Yeah,
as well.
okay.
This is...
Did P enter that extra information as well? So that
No, and I would actually be...
Prentice, what the hell, man? I thought you knew how to use AI. What's going on?
I would be interested to know what percentages it would spit out.
It would have changed for sure. It would have changed. I reckon it would have changed. If you gave it that back historical information, I reckon it would have changed.
I think it already would have, because I imagine he'd have been using the same chat, because he'd changed up the diet of Butters. He'd already... I imagine. So it should have had all that extra context, but if you'd asked it for a percentage, what percentage would have spit out? That'd be interesting, because if it had spit out 10%, I'd have gone like, all right, I feel this is a very clear case where you're trusting it too much. There's, like I said, there's pros and cons to it. I would say that was a con, but he's had many pros from it. And do the pros outweigh the cons? At the moment, it's still probably pro slightly, because it saved him time with things. But there's, $800 is a big con as well.
Yep.
So you mentioned the overabundance, perhaps, or superabundance of the AI. One thing you wouldn't have heard of, and the topic on podcasting 2.0 these last couple of weeks has been TTS, text-to-speech.
Text-to-speech.
Which is, there's this flooding into the index of podcasts, which are typically, I'm not going to say typically, often will be from a Reddit thread, which someone has just fed into, I can't remember the name of it's not Whisper. It's one where you can train a voice.
11 Labs.
Might have been 11 Labs. Might have been something else as well. Where they're just going like, here's this Reddit thread, create voices for these people, turn it into a podcast, submit it to the index, and then maybe they'll add an ad to it as well. And now there's just this flooding of all of these podcasts because, typically a podcast requires someone to create some audio, talk into it, blah, 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 upload it. But there's just this influx of just stuff coming in. Some of it is probably, it could be a valid podcast, as in valid it's valid in terms of its what it actually is. It fits a podcast specification. An MP3 file and an RSS feed with no DRM and consumable, blah, blah, that sort of thing. But is it valid in terms of, is anyone actually going to listen to this? And this has been a battle they've had before, which was when Spotify had Anchor, and Anchor was a free service you could use to create a podcast. And it was literally like a button on Spotify. You click into it, you talk into it with a friend or something, you upload it. And so there was all of these podcasts which were like labeled test. And there was someone going test. And then that, 3 seconds of audio. And that was why Spotify was saying like, we've got like 10 million podcasts, or we've got extra millions compared to the index, which is the podcast index, which was saying like, those aren't really podcasts. Like, that's just trash. That's spam. So, I don't know. I'm getting quite decent results myself on like Twitter, the algorithms that X is, spaces, things like that, blogs, and I'm finding less usefulness in podcasts, I guess, in that sense. Like, there's still stuff I'll listen to, but new things I'm kind of wary about as a default. So this flooding of stuff coming in, it's I think it's making it hard to find something new. If I was going to type art podcast, there's a very decent chance I'll now find something which is a Reddit thread summarizing of people talking, and they've just labeled it like art podcast or whatever, which I would call low signal. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a Reddit thread made into AI voices. I'm looking for people who are currently working in the industry, perhaps, and doing that. So I think that might be contributing kind of subconsciously to some of my decisions of like moving away from certain things and moving more towards others.
Towards that, yeah. I was going to say my general trend of consumption when it comes to podcasts as well is very much interviews, which I would roughly correlate to like biographical or biographies and summaries, and often in that it's very hard for something else to equate that because I'm interested in the person or the topic that the person's bringing. It's seldom I'm going to be able to find an equivalent, even AI summary or something else, where I'm going to go, I won't listen to that because I can go and get that information elsewhere. It's generally the person and a combination of the things that they're doing and talking about that is really interesting. So I'll do it and listen to that for that purpose. So it's unlikely I will move away from that for a long time because I find either the the interviewer or the interviewee or the topics in unison be really, really interesting. There's definitely some that I've let slip and I'm not checking in. Like Gary Vee type of equivalent things. I'll listen to some of his things, and again, I'll go through phases where I will a lot and some I won't. But a lot of the stuff that he puts out, I'll just say, is very generic, is very easily summarized. You can find it. I wouldn't say he's high signal anymore. I'd say he's quite slow to the game, if I was to be frank. A couple of weeks ago, he was like, "Oh, saw it too. You've got to get into it." It's like, man, that was ages ago, mate. But there's a few things that he talks about that I kind of go, this is no high signal. At least doesn't feel high signal anymore. Like it might just be where I'm transitioning to in the things that I'm interested about. But I go, this is not at all interesting. This is not as entertaining as it once was. I can get amongst the live stuff for sure. I think more differently. But that's an example. Same with Anthony Billy. Same. He's moved towards a less, still philosophical, but I guess more long-term thought process to, in the moment, I'm sure he'll have released something about Venezuela, let's just say. And it'll be a 2-hour conversation about this politician and this, and this person did that. And to me, I'm just that's not the content or the media that I want to consume. But part of me sees that there's a big trend towards that in the moment, even more like in the moment, a ginormous amount of content just because you can generate it, create it, or whatever else.
Yeah, well, that gets into the effort portion of things. And just on Gary Vee, he's high signal more in terms of the broad sweeping things. Because for him saying that to Zora, to his audience in general, will probably be like mind-blowing. Like most of these people are not playing around.
I don't think so. I don't think that would be the case, because when Sora 2 came out, like within days, it consumed 70% of all the CPU usage of OpenAI. Now, OpenAI has 800 to 900 million weekly users. So that's a good percentage of the humanity that is using this.
Yeah, what is it now, though? Like, it wouldn't be that much.
Of its usage?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well,
in terms of how much people are using Sora 2?
Yeah, like it was like a trend, you know. The latest hottest thing. Is it still?
Sure, it might have dropped off. Maybe. I would assume it's dropped off somewhat. Surely it has to have. But the fact that, and this was even, like, you couldn't even get it in Australia. This was people being used in America and Europe exclusively. Like, this is not in all the places in the world. They had to restrict it. So in that, it was like, man, that a good percentage of the American and European population would, maybe not even Europe. Like, there was a good American population that would have used it, maybe 30, 40%. And it was I'd have to go back exclusively to see exactly when he sent it. I'm sure I've got an email from Gary about Sora 2, and I was like, this was like 3 months later, 4 months later.
I guess what the point I'm trying to make is the signal can be, for him would be like, if he's talking about it, it's because it's ready for the masses, sort of thing, or it's more production ready, for example. When he started talking about Whatnot and live shopping, it had already been out for ages, and it had already been done in China, fucking ages, in Japan and stuff. But when he starts talking about it, it's like, oh, okay, it's now ready for the kind of mass market English-speaking world. And he's generally way, way ahead when it comes to those sorts of things. So, I guess define what you mean by signal as like being the very, very first person to recognize a trend and talk about it.
Nah, I would say more along the lines of it being as high signal, in that it is highly informative, unique piece, truly a differentiator from the other content that you might be able to consume alongside it. So Sora came out in September. In September. I have the email from Gary Vee on the 23rd of December saying, breaking news, meet the social media app that could be the next big thing. And it's Sora. It's Sora. So that's October, November. That's 4 months later. Big opportunity. Go to garyvee.com/Sora to download the new Sora 2 AI social media app.
And so, like, this is where it's like, if it just came out, I feel he's good at being to things on time, for example. So you could have read or been listening to, I'm going to forget his name, Cash, Chow Mein Mints and shit like this, like before Bitcoin came out, essentially. There's people trying to do e-gold. Fuck, that's really annoying that I've forgotten his name. There's a whole bunch of people who were doing things like hash cash and stuff like that. The idea was correct. Having a digital money. They were just too early. Like, they were too early and they didn't have the exact right thing. Was there signal in that, or was it now like, oh, this is just noise because it's too early?
Sorry. I guess maybe I'll shift some of the speed as well as a differentiation in that it is at least obvious to me that 15 years ago to today, and we're talking media, the ability of new things, media, consumption, creation is so fast now, so fast that for sure, 10 years ago, what Gary Vee was putting out was a lot of high signal because the speed of things being created and the people who were connected and understanding things was very few. And so everything he was really talking about, he was way early or way well connected. Whereas just in right now, the world that we live in, I often feel, and I think there's not a bad take on Gary, it's just in the existence that we live in now, everything's so in the moment that even me saying, oh, he was 4 months late, maybe 10 years ago, yeah, it would have been like, no, that's perfectly fine because the uptake curve, it takes so long. The uptake curves now are just so insane that everyone picks up everything almost immediately. Maybe that's why I feel
I
like
don't think that. I still think because there's so much barrage of information that it's hard. It's hard to filter it out with all of that shit that's just coming in now. It's almost.
But yeah, I guess in my view, some of the Gary stuff on say like the story tour, and I watched a video of him now goes into the shit pile. Like the things that he talks about with it, maybe not the shit pile. It just goes into the but this is the same that I've seen and heard 1,000 times over 3 months ago.
Sure.
Where it used to be 10 years ago when he's talking about Instagram or he's talking about selling on live. It's like there is almost nobody in the Western world talking about it. Where now it's just an abundance, and maybe a lot of it is AI generated abundance. So how you find now the high signal or the more uniqueness in this highly abundant world is difficult. And for me, like that's why to kind of summarize it for my point is it's still for me podcasts and interviews with people. It's very seldom you're going to be able to replicate that in some other way or format because it's unique to the human. It's very, 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 very difficult to go and replicate that.
We're getting to the point where people can. It's getting closer. It's getting closer.
No.
So, for example, I heard this thing recently. Jesse from Base, or there was another person who was doing the same thing. They've created a AI kind of like version of themselves, and you can email them, you can talk to them via text, and you can have these back and forths, and basically like he will, because there's too many people trying to get in contact with them.
Sure, yeah. And heaps of people are doing this. Heaps of people are doing that.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I've played around with it. Like I've seen people doing that for sure. But so there's a difference though between the other example that's doing it and you can get paid versions and non-paid versions is Tony Robbins. Totally exists. You can have the conversation with Tony Robbins and you do get, I'm sure, a percentage of a similarity, but it is different still because it's think about it purely from a database data perspective. If the data is not available to be collected to be reused, there is only one output that's going to come out from that, and it's going to be from the human that comes from it. You can generate it, like self-generated. You can create something, but the actual source of uniqueness comes from the human who holds that context of data. Now, if you're telling me you upload every single like possible data input from a human into it, then for sure, then just use AI because you can just get everything that you need from it. But and I almost think that eventually we'd probably get to that point anyways. But for the right now, if it's a Brian Armstrong, I still go, oh, there might have been something interesting as a 17-year-old that he had a story and this happened and this person helped him out. It's probably unlikely you're going to be able to self-generate that from AI at this point.
Yeah. If you if you go on a binge for someone, for example, like you find someone interesting and you listen to them across like a whole bunch of different podcasts, for example, they'll tell the same stories. They'll say the same things. Like you really only need to listen to like maybe 3 or 4, and then and then it's like the unique interviewer who can draw out something new.
For sure. Yep.
And so like you're trying to find those little gems, and that can be really hard because you can have a really interesting person. I find Adam Curry super interesting.
Chris Williamson's like that as well. He's good. I think he's good as an interviewer and drawing out some interesting things from people. But if you listen to him across being interviewed in different other podcasts, it is the same thing. It's the same thing. Like he's just almost like repeating it like he's doing a performance, and it's the same lines. And it's all interesting. Like that's what he's known for. But because I listen to him a lot, I'm like, oh man, there is almost like no need for me to listen to his latest. It was him and Stephen Landari, CEO. And if you've listened to Chris Williamson on his podcast, you basically know already 100% everything that gets said in that podcast. There's nothing new that you would pick up from that. And it's like, okay, that's not high signal, even though it's the people that I seem to be interested in.
Sure. So I'm thinking kind of all right, the media landscape is changing in a lot of places. We just talked about YouTube getting a superabundance, podcasting get a superabundance. I believe music is also having the same effect of AI.
What's that
music.
Called? Suno? Was it Suno?
Suno AI? Sounds right.
Yeah.
Check out Rick Beato if you want to hear more about that. And it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, we're kind of sort of stuck in our ways in a bit, in that 90% of what we consume is stuff that we've already found. It's from a source we already know. In essence. But they're still changing, and it's like, where is that changing going to, that 10% or that 20%, which is different? I'm finding that I'm leaning more into things which I think they're almost harder in a way. So, and let alone AI generated text, which is how much of what is now being communicated digitally between people is purely or vastly AI generated. It's got to be a shit ton. Because in schools and universities, emails between people, there's got to be so much. So I guess like one of the reasons I'm leaning more into the text-based stuff, we did a podcast episode on that cyber.fund blog article. There's, I don't know what it is, but I'm finding more gems in that world of blogs and texts, even though I would have thought that would be like where it's super abundant and it's way too hard to sort through the trash of like, this is AI generated.
Yeah, I'm finding the opposite. Yeah, for sure. I'm finding the opposite, where it's like, actually it's quite easy to find some high signal stuff through it.
I'm struggling to think why that is. Maybe it's what we were talking about. I remember talking about this in the park when we were doing it outside our old place ages ago, of the, it enhancing a writer, as in a writer is now better because of it, and it's not degrading, and it'll just make the better writers better and the worse writers worse, something like that. It's something around like the difficulty of things as well. So when podcasting first was invented, it was kind of like low signal in that it was really, really hard to do. You had to learn, like, you've got a roadcaster here. That didn't exist. Laptops basically didn't exist as well. Microphones where you can just plug in a USB didn't exist. So you had to like learn how to mix minus. You had to learn how to be a podcast host yourself. Uploading RSS files, MP3 files, you didn't have ridiculous amounts of bandwidth that we have now. So you had to learn how to compress and all of this crazy stuff. Super, super difficult. And there was probably like the first 4 or 5 years were just kind of trash in a way, in that it's too hard. Then there becomes like this middle ground where it's like, oh, this is where Tim Ferriss is doing his podcast for the first time. This is where Serial is coming out, and Joe Rogan. And there was a really good source, I guess, like it's a new wave coming through, something like that. I feel like a new wave is coming through of some sort, and I just don't know what that medium will be. Because I could imagine something like you've got an AI agent that's just fucking crawling the internet, and you've said like, focus on these sources from these people, and then it's crafting something for you, whether it's a video, whether it's audio, whether it's text, and it's just creating like the most high signal thing. That could be a new medium. That could be like, you know, and I don't know what would the name for it would be. AI consumption, AI media, whatever. I can see something like that happening, but it's at the stage now where it's still in that really hard stage of. There's probably people doing that now, but it's really hard. Me as the average person wouldn't really be able to do it. And I'm pretty motivated for certain things, so it's like maybe I could do it in 6 months' time when vibe coding's even easier. There's even more places where it's like makes it easy to do. So I think there's a certain thing about the hardness of stuff. It's kind of like I was talking with the Twitter Spaces, like because it's hard, there can be kind of some gems in there. Doesn't necessarily mean it's shit. So yeah, I don't know. You know, for example, why do neither of us have any African or Asian podcasts we listen to? You know, a portion of that is because it's in another language, but there's certainly like Asian speaking people who are like based in Hong Kong or something, or English speaking Asians who are based in Hong Kong, who probably there's some like really useful information that they're producing out of like a new trend.
But generally it's contextualized as well. Like, you know, it's still a geographical, yes, we are a pretty globalized place, but geographical context is still quite key, right? In that the large podcasts probably are more westernized in that regard. There probably is large African and Asian podcasts, but they're not in the global tops. So that's generally what people gravitate towards. It's probably also the type of content and the media that more percentage of humanity cares for, in that there's more eyeballs into it. And yes, I'm sure there's African podcasts and Asian podcasts that people do listen to, but it's the context of those individuals in that area. And actually, I have no clue about this in terms of what are the ways that those countries, continents actually absorb their media in generalness. Like, I don't know if Asia is that heavy in podcast or whether it's more something else, lives or something like that.
I guess like the thing would be in 20 years' time, which country will be wealthier or better off, the US or China, for example, or which region, the Western Hemisphere or the Eastern. And it's like, okay, let's just imagine, for example, it's more the Eastern. Okay, are we getting that information here, or is it just going to kind of pass us by because we're not tuned into what's going on over there?
Not sure.
And there'll be signs like, perhaps there will be an Asian podcast that breaks into the top 10 ranks, or a Chinese speaking or a translation of a Chinese one of like a really important person who creates the new Tencent or something like that. I just definitely think there's changes to the media landscape that are coming, and probably it's going to be similar to how we moved away from TV consumption to more on demand.
I just think, one, there will be change for sure. Two, nobody's ready for how fast it'll change. Like, again, I just kind of go back to, if you look back on all the years I've gone by, and it's not to say that, oh my God, it's going to kill something else. I don't think it'll be that, but it'll be the rate of the media changing on its consumption, creation, everything will be so ridiculously fast that what we once thought was realistic to kind of keep up with and whatnot just will become insanity. And there'll be other ways that summarize, like you said, with AI and everything else, that'll like help humans try to absorb these things, because, and I've talked about this in the past, content's going to be created for AI. It's not going to be created for humans. And we're going to have to find an interface layer for then the human to get the consumption of the AI, of what's being generated, because it kind of almost doesn't make sense anymore if we're moving from attention to an intention economy, and we talked about that. There's no point of creating things for humans. It's just make it almost database kind of informational at the base layer so that the AI can absorb it and then do whatever you need for a human to talk about it. In fact, I was listening to something just recently about, we talk about MCP, right? About the multi-context protocol for AI and whatnot. There's a strand of conversations started to happen being like, it's almost there's people in like websites and usage of it. They're starting to remove it because AI is actually so good now. It just integrates directly with the APIs themselves. There's no point to use MCP anymore. So MCP at a point was great because it was a lot in this multimodal usage for things. But some of the AI usage today is like it's actually making it slower. It might as well just integrate directly in with API integration calls and stuff like that. So now, not to say that this is all just going to change completely, but I think the rate of some of these things are going to go so fast. I don't see in time things going to be generative humans. It'll be exclusively machine related, like a machine to machine protocol M2M, which happens a lot in software coding and stuff like that. In fact, when you do a lot of work, you can do front end website building, but you also have to do your API, which is called the M2M connections. That's just going to become primary. That's going to become the important things. And it'll just be however you want to then interlace that with the way that humanity wants to absorb it. And that will have to change if it just influxes to 1,000 times more content, 1,000,000 times more content.
Yeah, I kind of view it as there'll be more of it, not necessarily that the human portion won't matter. It's kind of like trading, for example. Most trading, volume-wise now, is done via bots. Mm-hmm. It's just automated bots, like they're cascading liquidations, fucking all sorts of the quantum, like getting your computer as close to the stock exchange as possible with the like shortest amount of wiring so that you can get like the eke out the tiniest little advantage. Is the pools of capital that are funding those things not important? No, that's super important. And you still need like, okay, the black rocks are the people saying like, we're going to put a shit ton of money here and the bots will do their thing, or we're going to allocate more resources over to this thing. So it's not necessarily that the human portion doesn't matter anymore, because I feel like it's kind of like bleak. It's like, oh man, humans won't even matter.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen, folks. It's going to happen.
I'm saying it'll happen. I'm just saying that it's not a anti-human thing
True.
in a way.
Yeah.
That there still will be very important need for humans to get media sources and ultimately until we reach AGI and there's some sort of consciousness in these things, they're all just working off of our data. Like they're just working off of things that we're inputting into them.
Yeah, I think the other thing that
if we stop just now, what's going to happen?
The big thing that we didn't talk about, I guess, is the incentive, right? So again, the underlying thing of the incentive for podcasts and videos and all of that is money. And a lot of these creators create things, whether it's a big company or a smaller creator, is to get money and to get paid. Advertising, otherwise. Now, if those formats move completely and utterly elsewhere because of the way that things are evolving, they will cease to exist. Some of the things that we just consume day to day. Some might exist because they do it for the love of it, because they care about it, whatever else. But I'm sure as heck that there'll be plenty of others who, if YouTube stopped passing any ad revenue, because they don't even have to do ads anymore through YouTube, because they sell the data underlying in some other ways for AI to consume it or use it. I kind of go, well, there's going to be some creators who are going to stop, because if they get zero payment, but I sure as shit know there'll be things like Mr. Beast, who does things in the basis that he needs to make certain income to be able to generate more, might just stop altogether, because that's not a format to go down the path of creating money, and there might be something else. So I think the incentive structure will change for damn sure. When that does, you will see media change to align to it.
This is the biggest one. I can't believe I almost forgot this. There's no advertising on the digital text that I'm reading. Like these articles.
Yes.
There's no if there is, it's very subtle and I'm not noticing it yet. And typically I feel like you notice these things when there is a hidden agenda behind it. Same with, but I'm noticing, yes, on the YouTube videos, uptick of more, not only like we've got premium, so we don't get like the generic ad insertions, but also the in-ad ones, the host reads. I'm noticing an uptick on general across the broad stuff that I'm witnessing and viewing, whether that be pure entertainment, whether that be more informational.
Sure.
Noticing just way more uptick of all of that, and that's also why I'm leaning away from it, because I'm like, all right, this is becoming it's more fucking
saturated
noise.
with ads.
It's not,
yeah, that's true.
It's not even noise. It's like anti-signal. It's like fucking wasting my time with this bullshit advertising. I think that's also why I'm so interested in X402 at the moment, because I feel like that's a step more towards this vision, I imagine, of micropayments and how that will change economies. Like I feel that's underestimated how much that's going to change things.
Okay.
Yeah. And maybe a topic for another day, but yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Mere Mortal Lights, again, if you want to support, meremortals.podcast.com/support. If you want to support us in the various ways, you can also leave comments, be watching live as well.
Absolutely.
In any case, I hope you're well wherever you are in the world. Mere Mortal Lights, one out.
Going out.
Good.
Bye.